It all started with a single careless moment, a moment that shattered my life into pieces. I had always believed in the sanctity of trust, especially when it came to private matters. But one fateful evening at a crowded party, everything changed. My closest friend, someone I trusted more than anyone else, took it upon themselves to share something they should never have spoken aloud. It wasn't just any secret, it was my secret, buried deep within me for years, a mistake from my past that I'd worked tirelessly to conceal. The room fell silent as their words echoed through the air, leaving me frozen in shock. Strangers exchanged glances, some whispering behind raised hands, others staring directly at me with judgmental eyes. By the next morning, the damage had spread like wildfire. Social media exploded with rumors about who I was and what I had done. My colleagues distanced themselves, and soon enough, I received an email summoning me to HR. Within days, I lost not only my job, but also the respect of people whose opinions mattered most to me. At home, tensions flared. My family questioned how such a thing could happen, their disappointment cutting deeper than any outsider's criticism ever could. When I finally confronted my so-called friend, the betrayal stung even sharper. They stood there coolly, almost arrogantly, defending themselves. I thought sharing this would help them understand you better, they said, as if excusing their actions somehow made it okay. Their casual tone infuriated me further. Didn't they realize the gravity of what they'd done? That simple act of betrayal unraveled years of hard-earned progress in both my professional and personal life. This incident forced me to reflect deeply on the fragility of trust. Private matters are sacred, not because they're dramatic or scandalous, but because they represent parts of ourselves we choose to protect. Sharing someone's secrets without permission isn't merely careless, it's destructive. Every word carries weight, every revelation has consequences, and once spoken, there's no taking it back. Through this painful experience, I learned firsthand why respecting boundaries is crucial, not just for maintaining relationships, but for preserving one's dignity and peace of mind. It's strange how one reckless moment can unravel years of trust and love. After the fallout with my closest friend, when their careless words about my private life turned my world upside down, I found myself questioning everything I thought I knew about relationships. But little did I know a far greater storm was brewing at home. One rainy evening, as thunder rolled across the sky, an argument erupted between my wife and me over something trivial, a forgotten anniversary dinner. The tension escalated quickly, and in the heat of anger, I let slip the cruelest words imaginable. I regret ever marrying you. The room fell silent, except for the sound of rain pelting against the windows. My wife froze, her eyes wide with disbelief before they filled with tears. Without saying a word, she grabbed her coat and stormed out into the storm. At first, I told myself she'd calm down and return soon. But hours passed, and when my phone rang late that night, it wasn't her calling. It was the hospital. She had been hit by a car while crossing the street in the pouring rain. Panic surged through me as I raced to the emergency room, each second feeling like an eternity. When I arrived, the sight of her lying motionless on the hospital bed shattered whatever remained of my composure. Her face was pale, machines beeped ominously around her, and doctors spoke in hushed tones about her critical condition. All I could think about were those hateful words I'd hurled at her earlier. They replayed in my mind like a broken record, mocking me with their cruelty. How could I have said such a thing? What if she never woke up? The guilt crushed me, heavier than anything I'd ever felt. As I sat there holding her hand, memories flooded back. The laughter we shared, the challenges we overcame together, the promises we made to stand by each other no matter what. And yet, here I was, facing the possibility of losing her forever because of my inability to control my temper. It dawned on me then, harsh words aren't just fleeting expressions of anger. They're weapons that leave scars deeper than any physical wound. That single sentence, born out of rage, might cost me the person I loved most in this world, and nothing could undo the damage. And in the wake of the storm that had shaken my marriage and tested my ability to control my temper, I found myself reflecting deeply on how fragile human connections truly are. But little did I know life was about to teach me another invaluable lesson, this time at work. It began with a new hire named Daniel, whose quiet demeanor and reserved nature made him an easy target for judgment among our team. His cold exterior quickly earned him labels like arrogant and selfish. Conversations in the break room buzzed with whispers. "He doesn't even try to fit in," one colleague muttered. Another chimed in, "How can we trust someone who barely says two words?" These hasty judgments spread through the office like wildfire, isolating Daniel further and creating an invisible wall between him and the rest of us. But fate has a way of revealing truths when you least expect them. One fateful morning during a company-wide meeting, our CEO delivered devastating news. The company was on the brink of collapse due to a massive financial crisis. Layoffs seemed inevitable, and morale plummeted as panic set in. Just as despair began to consume everyone, Daniel stood up, a rare move from someone so reserved, and announced that he would personally cover the shortfall using his life savings. The room fell silent. Stunned faces turned toward him as he calmly explained, "I've seen what this company means to all of you. I may not talk much, but I care enough to act." The revelation hit us like a thunderbolt. This man, whom we had dismissed as aloof and uncooperative, was willing to sacrifice everything to save people he barely knew. Guilt weighed heavily on each of us as we realized how wrong we had been. After weeks of rebuilding both the company's finances and our fractured relationships, several colleagues approached Daniel to apologize. With humility etched across their expressions, they admitted their mistakes. Yet Daniel simply smiled, a serene, almost forgiving smile, and said softly, "I don't need apologies. What I value is understanding." That moment changed something profound within me. Here was a man who chose action over explanation, kindness over resentment. He reminded me of the doctor from the earlier story, the one who saved a child despite losing his own son. Both men taught me that judging others hastily isn't just unfair. It blinds us to the beauty of their character. We cannot see beyond surfaces until we choose empathy over assumption. And sometimes silence speaks louder than any defense ever could. In the aftermath of the stormy lessons I had learned about trust, anger, and judgment, life seemed determined to teach me yet another profound truth. This time through a heart-wrenching incident involving words that cut deeper than any blade. It was during my days as a teacher when I first encountered Daniel, a quiet boy who always wore slightly worn-out clothes and carried an air of shyness. His peers quickly labeled him the slum kid, mocking his patched-up jacket and faded shoes. The teasing began casually but soon escalated into relentless cruelty, spreading like wildfire across the school. Whispers turned into jeers, and laughter echoed in hallways where he walked alone. Each taunt pierced his spirit, leaving invisible wounds no one could see. One fateful afternoon, disaster struck. As I prepared to leave the building, I noticed movement near the rooftop, a shadowy figure standing dangerously close to the edge. My heart froze as I realized it was Daniel. He stood there trembling, tears streaming down his face, clutching a crumpled note that read, "I'm tired of being nothing." Panic surged through me, but instinct took over. I approached cautiously, speaking softly until I managed to guide him away from the ledge. That moment felt like eternity. Every second carried the weight of life and death. The next morning, I gathered the entire student body in the auditorium. Silence fell heavily as I stepped onto the stage, my voice steady but charged with emotion. "We cannot know what someone is enduring," I said firmly, looking directly at the crowd. "Words are not just sounds, they carry power. They can heal or destroy." You laughed at Daniel for his old clothes, but did you stop to consider why he wears them? Did you think about the sacrifices his family makes just to send him here so he can have a better future? The room remained silent, guilt etched on young faces. This tragedy reminded me of the father who lashed out at the grieving doctor and the husband whose harsh words shattered his marriage. In both cases, careless speech had inflicted irreparable harm. Words matter. They shape lives, define destinies, and reveal our humanity. By choosing kindness over cruelty, we honor not only others, but also ourselves. The lessons life had taught me about trust, judgment, and the weight of words came rushing back when I witnessed a story that unfolded like a Shakespearean tragedy. It was about Michael, a young man from a humble background who fell deeply in love with Emily, the daughter of one of the wealthiest families in town. Their love seemed pure, untainted by societal divides, until her family intervened. When they discovered their relationship, Emily's parents erupted in outrage, branding Michael as nothing more than a gold digger seeking to exploit their wealth. "You'll never be good enough for her," her father sneered during a heated confrontation. Despite Emily's pleas, her family forbade them from seeing each other again, threatening to disown her if she disobeyed. Heartbroken but determined, Michael left without a word, vowing to prove his worth through sheer willpower. Over the next decade, he worked tirelessly, often sleeping only 4 hours a night while juggling multiple jobs. His relentless drive transformed him into a self-made entrepreneur, amassing success beyond anyone's wildest dreams. Meanwhile, Emily's life took a darker turn. Pressured by her family, she married a wealthy businessman who turned out to be abusive and controlling. Her once bright spirit dimmed under years of emotional torment. One fateful evening, fate brought them together again at a charity gala hosted by none other than Michael himself. Dressed impeccably in a tailored suit, Michael exuded confidence and grace, commanding attention in every room he entered. When Emily's tearful eyes met his across the crowded hall, time seemed to stand still. Her parents, recognizing him immediately, approached with trembling voices, begging for forgiveness. They confessed how wrong they had been to judge him based on his financial standing. But Michael's response cut deeper than any blade. Never judge someone by their circumstances. His words hung heavy in the air, a stark reminder of the destructive power of superficial judgments. As he walked away, leaving behind whispers of awe and regret, I couldn't help but reflect on the countless lives ruined by snap decisions rooted in prejudice. Just as harsh words can scar forever, so too can hasty judgments destroy futures. not just for individuals, but for entire families. In the wake of the lessons I had learned about trust, judgment, and humility, life seemed determined to teach me yet another profound truth, this time through an elderly farmer named Mr. Lum. He was a quiet man whose hands bore the marks of decades spent tending to crops under the scorching sun. His grandchildren often mocked him for being outdated, sneering at his inability to use a smartphone. "You're living in the Stone Age, Grandpa," they teased during family gatherings, their laughter echoing cruelly as he sat silently, his weathered face betraying no emotion. But fate has a way of revealing the true value of things when you least expect it. One fateful summer, disaster struck. The region was hit by a devastating typhoon that wiped out nearly all the crops. Floodwaters submerged fields, leaving the village on the brink of starvation. Panic spread like wildfire, and despair hung heavy in the air. It was then that Mr. Lum stepped forward, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the chaos around him. Drawing from years of experience, he guided the villagers in planting resilient crops that could survive even in poor soil conditions. With precision and care, he taught them how to nurture these plants using traditional methods passed down through generations. Weeks later, when the first harvest came, the entire village erupted in gratitude. The food saved them from hunger, but more importantly, it restored hope where none seemed possible. As people gathered around to thank him, tears streaming down their faces, Mr. Lum simply smiled, a serene, almost otherworldly smile, and said softly, "Knowledge doesn't lie in books or technology. It lies in the heart and hands." His words struck a chord deep within me, reminding me of Daniel, the misunderstood employee who sacrificed everything to save his company, and Michael, the self-made entrepreneur whose worth couldn't be measured by wealth alone. Each of these stories reinforced the idea that true wisdom isn't confined to degrees or gadgets. It's found in resilience, compassion, and the quiet strength of those who refuse to conform to societal expectations. By mocking Mr. Lum, his grandchildren had dismissed not just his knowledge, but also the essence of what made him extraordinary. And now, standing amidst the very people he had saved, I realized that humility and respect are the threads that weave humanity together. In the same world where Michael's quiet perseverance and Mr. Lum's humble wisdom taught me about resilience and respect, I encountered a story that served as a stark reminder of how arrogance can unravel even the most promising achievements. It was about a young CEO named Jonathan, whose ambition burned brighter than anyone else's in the room. At every board meeting, he would boast relentlessly about his accomplishments, painting grand visions of global domination for the company. "Mark my words," he declared during one such gathering, pounding the table with theatrical flair. "This company will become a household name worldwide." His confidence dazzled some, but it left others uneasy. His promises felt more like hollow echoes of self-importance than genuine plans. For months, Jonathan pushed forward reckless decisions, ignoring warnings from seasoned advisors who cautioned against risky ventures. He dismissed their concerns with a wave of his hand, claiming they lacked vision. Then came the day when everything collapsed. A single catastrophic decision triggered an avalanche of financial ruin. The company went bankrupt overnight, leaving thousands of employees jobless and families struggling to make ends meet. Social media erupted with outrage. Former colleagues shared stories of his arrogance and misplaced bravado, painting him as the architect of their misfortune. The climax came when reporters cornered him outside a courthouse, microphones thrust toward his face like weapons. Cameras flashed relentlessly as questions fired at him from all sides. What do you have to say about ruining lives? For a moment he stood frozen, the weight of his failures pressing down on him like a mountain. Finally, with his head bowed low, he muttered through gritted teeth, I was too arrogant, and now I'm paying the price. Those words hung heavy in the air, a bitter confession from a man who had once soared on wings of pride, only to crash into the unforgiving ground of reality. This downfall mirrored the lessons I learned earlier, the doctor bearing silent sorrow, the farmer nurturing hope amidst despair, and the husband whose harsh words shattered trust. Each story reinforced the idea that authenticity trumps bravado, humility overpowers arrogance, and actions speak louder than empty boasts. Jonathan's tale became a cautionary parable. Success built on inflated egos is fragile, while true greatness lies in quiet determination and integrity. In the same world where trust was shattered by careless words, humility triumphed over arrogance, and quiet strength spoke louder than empty boasts. I encountered another story that left an indelible mark on my understanding of human nature. It was about Mrs. Evelyn Harper, a reclusive yet kind-hearted woman who lived at the edge of our small town. Despite her reserved demeanor, she had always gone out of her way to help others, whether it was delivering meals to struggling families or fixing broken fences in the dead of night. Yet, instead of gratitude, suspicion clouded the hearts of her neighbors. Why does she bother? They whispered behind closed doors. She must want something in return. Their distrust grew darker when rumors spread that her solitary lifestyle hid ulterior motives. The tension reached its peak one fateful evening when a fire broke out in the neighborhood. Flames engulfed houses with terrifying speed, trapping children and elderly residents inside. Amidst the chaos, Evelyn emerged as a beacon of courage. Ignoring the searing heat and collapsing debris, she rushed into a burning home to save a child trapped upstairs. Her bravery came at a cost. Severe burns covered much of her body, leaving her hospitalized for months. But even as she lay recovering, whispers persisted among some neighbors. She only did it for attention, they muttered cynically, unable to fathom genuine selflessness. When Evelyn finally returned to the village, she chose not to confront their accusations. Instead, she quietly packed her belongings and moved deep into the woods, severing all ties with the community. Before leaving, she left behind a single letter addressed to no one in particular. In it, she wrote, I do not seek recognition or approval. My conscience is clear, and that is all I need. Her departure sent shockwaves through the village. Slowly, guilt settled over those who had doubted her, forcing them to confront their own prejudices. This story reminded me of the doctor who endured judgment while silently saving lives, and the farmer whose wisdom saved his village. Both taught me that true sincerity doesn't demand validation. It simply acts. Evelyn's life became a testament to this truth. Living authentically means staying true to your values, even if others refuse to understand. And sometimes silence speaks louder than any defense ever could. In the same world where Evelyn's quiet strength taught us the value of self-reliance, and Michael's perseverance showed us the importance of earning trust, I encountered another story that highlighted how fragile relationships can be when we take others for granted. It was about a man named David who had always leaned heavily on his friends and family for support. Whether it was something as trivial as fixing a broken light bulb or as significant as borrowing money to pay off mounting debts, David never hesitated to ask for help. At first, people were happy to assist. They saw him as someone in need, deserving of their kindness. But over time, his constant requests began to wear thin. Friends exchanged uneasy glances whenever he called, dreading what new favor he might demand next. The breaking point came one fateful evening when David found himself drowning in debt after a series of poor financial decisions. Desperate, he reached out to those he had relied on so often before. This time, however, no one answered his calls. One friend bluntly told him, "You've asked for too much, David. We're tired of being your safety net." The rejection hit him like a punch to the gut. Without anyone to turn to, David was forced to sell his house, the only asset he had left, to settle his debts. As he packed up his belongings, tears streaming down his face, he realized how much damage his dependency had caused. His relationships, once strong and supportive, now lay in ruins. Sitting alone in an empty apartment, surrounded by boxes, David reflected bitterly on his choices. He thought back to Jonathan, the arrogant CEO whose downfall stemmed from unchecked ambition, and to the doctor whose silent sacrifice saved lives despite harsh judgment. Both stories underscored a universal truth. Respect and trust must be earned through actions, not taken for granted. For David, this lesson came at a steep price. He vowed to rebuild his life, not by leaning on others, but by standing on his own 2 feet. In a letter addressed to his former friends, he wrote, "I understand now why you distanced yourselves. True strength lies not in asking, but in striving. Thank you for teaching me this, even if it hurt." David's journey became a testament to the power of self-reliance. While it took losing everything to learn, he emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever to forge a path built on integrity and independence. In the same world where Evelyn's silence spoke louder than words and Jonathan's arrogance shattered lives, I encountered another story that revealed how deeply our words can shape the people around us. It was about Mr. Anderson, a hardworking father who prided himself on discipline, but unknowingly wielded his tongue like a weapon. His son, Ethan, bore the brunt of this harshness. From morning to night, Mr. Anderson's voice echoed through their home, berating, criticizing, and belittling every mistake Ethan made. "You'll never amount to anything if you keep failing like this," he would thunder, oblivious to the wounds his words inflicted. At first, Ethan tried to endure it, burying his pain behind forced smiles. But over time, the boy withdrew into himself, spending hours locked in his room or wandering aimlessly outside. Friends noticed the change. Once lively and curious, Ethan now seemed hollow, as though something vital had been drained from him. One evening, after yet another tirade from his father, Ethan packed a small bag and left without a word. The next morning, Mr. Anderson found a letter on the kitchen table, written in shaky handwriting. "I don't hate you, Dad, but I can't live with your words anymore." The weight of those words crushed Mr. Anderson. For days, he searched for Ethan, calling hospitals, friends, anywhere his son might be. When all leads ran cold, desperation drove him to seek help from a psychologist. Sitting across from the calm, piercing gaze of Dr. Miller, Mr. Anderson finally understood the gravity of his actions. "Every harsh word is like a cut," she explained gently, "and children's hearts are fragile. They carry these scars long after the moment passes." Her words struck him like lightning. He thought back to the farmer whose wisdom saved a village, the doctor bearing silent sorrow, and even David whose dependency eroded trust. Each story reinforced one truth: words matter. They have the power to heal or destroy, to build bridges or burn them down. As tears streamed down his face, Mr. Anderson vowed to change, not just for Ethan, but for himself. He began attending therapy, learning how to communicate with kindness instead of anger. Weeks later, when Ethan finally returned, hesitant and guarded, Mr. Anderson embraced him, whispering, "I'm sorry, I'll do better." This journey taught Mr. Anderson that our words reflect not only who we are, but also what we leave behind, a legacy of love or regret. As the years rolled by, life continued to teach profound lessons through moments both tender and harsh. In one poignant chapter, an elderly man named Mr. Wilson found himself trapped in a cycle of insomnia, haunted by the cruel whispers of neighbors who criticized his eccentric habits. The relentless noise within his mind drained him physically and emotionally until he stumbled upon Confucius' wisdom. At 60, I could hear without being upset. Slowly, he embraced meditation and yoga, silencing external chaos and nurturing inner peace. His health improved, and with it came renewed joy, a testament to the power of selective listening. Meanwhile, Mrs. Harper struggled with her strained relationship with her daughter-in-law, constantly criticizing how she raised her grandson. Tension mounted until illness struck. When the young mother fell gravely ill, Mrs. Harper was left to care for the child alone. Through this trial, she realized that love manifests differently in everyone's heart. Her rigid expectations softened into acceptance, mending their bond. Elsewhere, Mr. Anderson's frugal lifestyle led him down a dangerous path. Eating only cheap, unhealthy food triggered severe heart problems. A stern warning from his doctor forced him to prioritize nutrition, teaching him that true wealth lies in good health. Similarly, Mrs. Carter, once bedridden due to neglecting exercise, defied despair by committing to light daily movements. As strength returned, so did her independence, filling her family with pride. Finally, there was Mr. Lewis, whose anxiety over his grandchildren's futures plunged him into depression. Only after learning to let go of what he couldn't control did he find solace in journaling and cherishing small joys. Together, these elders prove that aging gracefully isn't about avoiding challenges. It's about embracing them with resilience and grace.